Everybody, thanks for being here today. I'm Congressman Duncan Hunter, joined with some great friends, Diana Harkey, Juan Hidalgo, and Chris Harris. And together we're here standing up for the one thing that I think is extremely important and that we agree with the president with as he sends and directs troops to the border right now, is that he's already sending 9 engineering units with the first 5,000 troops that he's directed to the border. If that number goes up to 15,000 troops, we might have 15 or 20 engineering units. And I'm wrote him a letter that we're sending today that I think does the most important thing that we can do with these military units on the border, and that's build a foundational border road. With about 10 people and 6 vehicles, they can build about a quarter mile of foundational border road, which you see behind me. What makes the border wall actually work so well is the high-speed road that sits in between the two walls, because that enables the agents to get from one place to the other very quickly. That's what makes the border wall work. And if you have these engineering units and you have thousands of military on the border, the National Guard, the Reserve, the Seabees, the Marine Corps, and the active duty Army, they all have bulldozers, they all have graders, and right now they're doing make work projects in different bases throughout the nation. That's how they train. They move dirt from one place to the other, because what they do is they go overseas to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and they build all-weather, all-purpose roads on different bases overseas. They train doing that back here. What I want to see them do, and what the president should direct them to do, is build those roads on the border right now while they are mutually supported by active duty military, which are on their way to the border now. That's the most important thing that the president can do, because building the high-speed road is more than half the cost of building the actual border wall. Behind us, you have Smuggler's Gulch. About 80% of the border wall funding went to cut and fill for the road. It was not the actual border fencing, but the road itself that cost that much money. We can save taxpayers tens of billions of dollars on equipment and man hours if you have the military right now start building the road while they're on the border, and that's what I'm asking the president to do. Number 2, build detainee facilities. The president called them tent cities, but build nice detainee facilities so we stop doing catch and release with the people who claim asylum. Congress did not do its job. So if you come into this country and you stand at the actual port of entry and you claim asylum, we let you in and say, please come back in 6 months for your court date. 80% of the people don't come back at all. They disappear into the shadows of America. We don't know whether those are good guys or bad guys. There's no database in Honduras, there's no database in Guatemala or El Salvador to check them against. So we don't know. So do not release them. Have the military build detention facilities on the border where we keep the people there until their cases can be adjudicated. And we ought to ship in judges and lawyers to those detention facilities to do it as fast as possible so we can start sending people home who don't belong here. The reason this is so important, the reason that I called this press conference, and we have supporters with us today that are here that got wind of this, the reason it's so important is because with the military on its way to the border now is the time to strike and start building the border road. That is something that will save America billions of dollars. It'll save man hours, it'll save time, and we can get a jump start on the border wall. So with that being said, I'm here for official purposes. This is an official letter from me as a congressman. It's not a campaign ploy or stunt, and it's important because right now is the time to do it as the military is going to the border wall. That's what we need to get done. And I'd like to introduce a great lady who's running for Congress here. She's on the Board of Equalization, Miss Diana Harkey.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you so much for coming. This is really an important issue. It's very near and dear to my heart. I don't know how many of you read Kamala Harris's 2014 report on transnational gangs. It's tremendously an eye-opener of what occurs at the border. And the only difference in that 2014 report is that we no longer have smugglers for marijuana. We have smugglers for opioids, fentanyl, heroin, those types of things. And it's coming across fast and furiously across this border. If we ever want to get a handle on the opioid crisis, we have to control our border, because that is now the big import. Human trafficking, huge. I mean, that report will tell you it all, and it's all still valid. This is the #1 entry is between Mexico and the United States, and particularly California, for human trafficking, drug running, and money laundering. Nothing has changed. And with us legalizing marijuana on our borders either, that's why the first border wall got put in, because they were being rushed by 300 and 400. Can you imagine if there's thousands of people? We can't have that. You also have to think of the healthcare impacts. Right now we have, typhus returning to Los Angeles, and we've got all sorts of other healthcare issues, measles, mumps, rubella, all those things that we thought were gone that are now back. And so people are going to need health care, and California itself does not manage its health care very well. There's just a new state audit by the state auditor that $4 billion between a 4-year period was given out where it shouldn't have been. And we accept people and we give them health care without them being verified. They're on a temporary program. But that money does not quit coming. So, if we're having health care issues and people want to talk about Medicare for all, this is going to be huge. We have to get a handle on the border, and we have to pass a solid immigration policy that works for what we need today. And no scapegoating. Congress needs to do its job. And they had a bill. There were no Democrats supporting that bill, but they need to get together and do a complete reform, because right now we have the Swiss cheese of statute because of all the case law. So we have to have some border security. It's mandatory. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate your interest, and I look forward to seeing you.
And thanks, Diane. Now let me introduce a gentleman who is running for Congress, a retired sergeant major in the beloved United States Marine Corps. He knows about national security. He knows about this area. This is where he's from. This would be his district behind me. And the great Sergeant Major Juan Hidalgo.
Good morning. Thanks for coming out. Hey, this is vitally important right now. We have to stop allowing the people on the left to dictate this conversation and say that it has everything to do with racism. It has nothing to do with racism. This has everything to do with national security. Nobody has a right just to enter our country. Nobody. There's a process. There's a process, and people always ask me, because they try to catch us up and say, do you want a wall? I agree with our president. I want a real big wall, but I want a real big door too, because we want people to come here legally. I've never met one person against legal immigration, not one, because it's about taking care of the American people first. Diane said it right. There's people in Congress. Not everybody's a Duncan Hunter. We need more people in Congress that will fight for Americans. That's what I'm going to do in Congress. Unlike the guy I'm running against, who doesn't care. He cares more about people on that side of the border. I care about you, the American people, your children, your grandchildren, and that's what we need to get back to. We need to take care of Americans and make sure Americans are safe again. Diane just gave you a long list of medical issues that are coming back into our country. Do you know the kids out here and the families that are affected by these diseases right now? It's unheard of. When I'm in Congress, I'm going to work with Congressman Hunter. I'm going to work with Diane, because she's going to be there too. We're all going to be working for the American people. So don't forget, it's time to vote our values and take care of the border, because it's important to our country. And I do know something about national security, and it's about protecting America. So God bless you. God bless America. Thank you for having us today.
And thanks, Juan. And lastly here, Chris Harris, who's been in law enforcement and border security for longer than I've been alive, and who's probably forgotten more about border security than we'll ever know. And we've had tours from him, and what he shows us is what really happens on the border. The non-dog and pony shows the actual tours where we see the down and dirty of how open the border is, how hard it is for the Border Patrol agents and what they do, and how they're basically stopped by lawyers in the U.S. from doing their jobs. But the great Chris Harris, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I was going to say nice things about him, but now I'm not going to. Yeah, I got about 36 years in law enforcement, 20-some with the U.S. Border Patrol. My name is Chris Harris. I'm with Local 1613 and Border Patrol Council. We represent the men and women who patrol this border, who try to keep this country safe. One of the things that, it's not my quote, but it was a quote by a decent agent, was, we don't hate the people out there. We don't try to control the border because we hate those people. It's because we love the people in here. When you care about something, when you find intrinsic value in it, when it's something that is near and dear, you protect it. You either make a Fort Knox, you have a bank, you live in a gated community, you have a walled compound, whatever, you lock your doors at night. It's because you love the people inside, not that you hate the people outside. Every sovereign nation has a right to defend its borders and decide who comes in and how long. I do want to talk about the road, because right down here, when I came out here 21 years ago, that road wasn't there. It's a clay. When it rains, every agent had to pull off the border. We were catching 1,000 people a night, just on night shift. My record is the same group 3 times in one night. Caught them, they went back, caught them, they went back, caught them, they went back. I'm sure the 4th time was a charm for them. That's unacceptable. Diane was talking about diseases. My men and women at the Imperial Beach Border Patrol Station were just in contact with typhus. They have to be checked for having typhus. That should not be an issue in this country, in a first world country. We are not a third world country. We shouldn't aspire to be a third world country. We should try to lift up countries to first world status, but we shouldn't lower ourselves to that. So I support, the local supports, the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol support anyone who supports the idea of securing the border. Understand this. 3 years ago, even Democrats said they supported this. There's a difference between immigration reform, which is a serious discussion we have to have with the American people, and border security. No one, unless they have an agenda, should be against border security, protecting the people in this country. We know after 9/11 there are bad people out there that want to do bad things to this country. Let's not have that happen again. So I support everyone that's standing here because they support us. They support securing the border. And as Juan said, there is no racism involved. My wife is from Mexico. It has nothing to do with it. I don't care if you're from Ireland. My family's from Ireland. I don't care. If you're here illegally, I want to sack you up and get you out of here. Follow the law. We are a country of laws, not a country of man. That goes back all the way to the Magna Carta. You cannot have a decent democratic republic, a constitutional republic, without the rule of law. If you don't like the laws, change them in Congress. But you don't have the right to say, I don't like the law, we're not going to follow it. So I ask you to support the people that support us, the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol, who risk their lives daily. This is named after someone, this Arnie's Point is named after somebody who was in a shootout, who was shot, a Border Patrol agent. That's why it's called this. So I support, and I ask you to support, the men and women of the United States to support the people that support us in securing the borders. Thank you.
Everybody, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Isn't it against House ethics violations to have a campaign rally?
I'm not campaigning, nor is this a rally.
But there's a campaign here.
I can't help what other people do.
Congressman, your letter talks about political posturing. Is this not doing the same thing?
No, this is not. No, not at all.
Why not?
What we wrote was an official letter to the president that's being sent out right now that says simply, build the foundational border road with the military. That's what this is about, and I think it's so important, is why I called this. This is the one thing that you can do. Chris was on the radio a little while ago and said the 1st Marine Division is not going to hold hands across the border. You're not going to have U.S. military doing law enforcement activity on the border. They're going to be helping. What they can do is start putting in the infrastructure right now for zero cost because they're already paid for. The men and women that are in the active duty and reserve and National Guard, they're already being paid. The bulldozers are already bought by taxpayer money. They can start doing that right now, and the president needs to get that message that this can be started right now, and his wall could be being built right now as we speak, with these military units being sent to the border. This is not about immigration. This is about building the first part of the wall that the wall's going to sit on, and that costs the most. This is the actual road costs more than the wall itself. That's what this is about. Yes, please.
So that was a good question, and I appreciate why Congressman Hunter is doing this. That primary fence is new. That started under a program with President Obama, but the original one was from his father, and that was done with engineers and reservists, and it cost very little to the U.S. government. So I pay taxes like all of you. I prefer to pay less taxes. So if he can get the president to sign off on having the military do something they're already paid to do, I'm all on board for that. You know, God bless Catholics and God bless companies that are being paid for it. But if we could start doing some of the stuff behind that for free, I'm all for that.
Mr. Harris, is this Smuggler's Gulch right behind you?
Actually, it's not. I think the congressman misspoke. Smuggler's Gulch is
Behind us, but just over that
3
hill.
miles that way. But his point is the same. We built a berm through there. We built the secondary fence. I had Swedish TV there a while ago. They were filming. They said, "Do you actually need the secondary fence?" And it was a rainy, foggy morning. And I said, "Hold that thought. There's a guy right there. He's stuck by that secondary fence." I got on the radio. They came down and made an arrest. If the secondary fence wasn't there, he would have gotten through. So it's so helpful. Infrastructure not the end all and be all, but it's very helpful.
It's a deterrent.
Congressman Hunter, Danny Friedman with NBC7. Can you respond to those critics who say that the ad your campaign had against Mark Implementar
No,
was
we're not.
racist?
We're not talking campaign stuff. Right now, we have an army of migrants bearing down on the U.S. from multiple third world countries. The president has finally directed the military to the border, and building the foundational border road is the most important thing they can be doing besides assisting Border Patrol on their apprehensions.
Do you have any thoughts on President Trump's comments about signing an executive order to end birthright citizenship?
No, we'll look at it, and if he has legal grounds, I'm absolutely interested in it. Absolutely.
Congressman Hunter, is this just a sideshow to deflect from the indictment?
No, this is about.
Why are you here? Yeah. You don't even support the border.
Congressman, do you think it's fiscally prudent for the president to deploy 15,000 troops to the U.S. border?
Yeah, because they're already training. You're already paying the U.S. military. You've already bought the vehicles, and you're already paying. We the taxpayers are already paying. That's why if you can build the border wall and the border road especially, it will almost cost nothing, because you already have these engineering units training throughout the nation. They're already moving dirt, they're already building roads, because they're training for what they're going to do overseas on military bases, where they build all-weather foundational roads, and they also put up fences and walls. That's what the U.S. military engineering units are trained to do. So have them do it right here.
Congressman, what is the difference between this caravan and previous caravans? Why is this caravan raised to the national security level of calling in the military? Why is this caravan that much more dangerous?
The size.
Okay, so the makeup is no different. Do you concede the makeup is no different?
You now have
women and children.
Caravans. You now have multiple caravans of mostly military-age males coming at the border. You don't know who is there. You just because you can't prove that there's a terrorist organization infiltrated in these units doesn't mean you can't disprove that either. Meaning you could easily have terrorist elements in these caravans. You don't know one way or the other.
Why would
anybody into your house
why would a terrorist go to the trouble
of
walking thousands of miles with women and children bathing in rivers to attack the United States?
So they could get in the border.
Why don't they just fly in from Lindbergh Field? Why don't they just come on a boat? Why don't you just go into the tunnel?
Many of them are on trucks. They're not walking. So,
but again,
somebody's bringing supplies.
The big point is, the major point's this: the president has already directed troops. If you want to use those military assets to the best of their ability, besides buttressing the U.S. Border Patrol and ICE, build the border wall starting with that foundational road. Get a jump start on it. Do it now, and you don't have to wait for Congress, Mr. President. You don't have to wait for Congress at all. The military is already being paid by the U.S. taxpayer. So have them start on this national security issue that has nothing to do with immigration. It has to do with securing the border and making sure that people come to the front door of the U.S., like Juan Hidalgo said.
Congressman, why do you think that the entire Democrat Party has gone silent on the caravan, yet they support open borders?
Yeah, this is interesting too, because Hillary Clinton voted for the Border Fence Act. Hillary Clinton supported the fence behind us. She voted for it. So I'm not sure what's changed in the Democrat Party, where they want open borders and they don't mind this caravan of people who they don't know who is in it coming to the U.S. I am not sure. But you had Hillary Clinton vote for this fence behind us.
Congressman, the rhetoric in this country is very charged right now, both sides. I mean, we've even seen it here. Is there anything you can do or say that could kind of bring Americans back together? I mean, there's people getting hurt out there.
We all stand for national security. No one's against securing America for Americans. And I think if you're on this side of the border, then you want what you ran from if you escaped to this country. If you've already been granted asylum, if you've immigrated here from another nation, you left something behind and you came here for a better place. So let's secure that better place here and make sure we don't bring ourselves down to the level of crime and despotism of places that you left behind. That's what the border wall can do. That's what it can accomplish. And if you start building the border road, you got a huge, almost free jump start on that border wall.
Aren't you concerned people just dig tunnels under it, or is that
No.
Why not?
Yeah. Because we have seismic sensors, and Chris can speak to this more. We work every day at catching those guys. Go ahead, Chris. Again, he's forgotten more about this.
That's a
than
great
we'll ever
question.
know.
And the problem is, like where I work, there's a river. They can't tunnel under it. The other thing is, those tunnels are $1 million tunnels. They're all for narcotics. When you see people going through them, that's the end of the tunnel's life. When they think they got murdered, that's when they start putting people through. Those tunnels are made for narcotics. They're $1 million tunnels. They can't even hope to get through under what comes above. So if you can seal the border above to the best of your ability, whatever they can put underground is not even going to be a tenth of what they can put above. So you're ahead of the game there. It costs them millions of dollars to do these tunnels. And we do work with different partners, including the IDF and other people, to find them. And we're fairly good at it. It's a cat and mouse game, but the fact is you can't build enough tunnels to put people underground that are coming above. So if we can secure with whatever means, infrastructure, manpower, technology, above ground, they'll never match it underground.
Chairwoman Harkey, are you here in your official capacity as a Board of Equalization member?
No, I
You're
am
campaigning?
and I'm not. I'm not writing a letter,
Okay.
but I am here. I am here because this is a huge issue for me, and it's one of the reasons I am running for Congress.
Okay.
And I'm, I could be here in my official capacity if you'd like me to be.
Okay, thank you.
Congressman, just on immigration, on the border wall, I think the question that critics have is, with the caravan still so far away, and this last-minute push with troops and to call press conferences like this, that's why they say this.
It's start building the border wall by building the foundational border road, which is the high-speed access for all the Border Patrol agents on the border.
Congressman, in terms of the question of a political stunt, do we have any information about who organized the caravan? The president has suggested that maybe it was done by groups that wanted to bring it here.
No idea.
On the other side of the issue?
No idea.
I do have one comment. The research that I pointed out to you was from an official capacity. We were considering, we did legalize marijuana, and the State Board of Equalization was trying to figure out how we tax something that can't be banked or recorded. And so you got into a lot of details as to where the real problems were, where it was coming from, which cartels were involved, and how you could possibly thwart that effort and make it put things above board without having the federal government on board for the banking issue. So all of that data I gave you from Kamala Harris's report, transnational gangs, is all legitimate and has been verified. It's not disputable. This stuff is real and it's dangerous, and we have to protect the people in this country. And I mean, with all the opioid talk, and everybody wants to protect their children, I would think this would be a huge issue for anyone with children, because opioids are what's coming across now. It is not marijuana anymore.
Mr. Hunter, do you support the zero tolerance policy now in abeyance of separating families at the border? Or if you don't, why not?
I think we ought to build more detention facilities and not release asylum seekers at all. And if that means keeping the families together in these detention facilities, that's what we need to do. So we ought to keep the people here that are asking for asylum and not release them into the interior of the country to disappear. Chris has great stats on this. Over 80% of the people who ask for asylum and are asked to come back to have their cases heard disappear into America, never to be heard from again. Keep them in detention facilities on main road, because you didn't have the other fence, so the main road is like this one here.
The cement one, you want one of those in the middle?
The gravel road.
Yeah. Okay.
Congressman, your letter refers to the caravan as an army of migrants.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's an army of migrants.
What weapons do they carry? What danger do they pose?
We don't know.
Well, how do you know it's an army if you don't know? We have drones, we have satellites.
Why would you let people come into your house when you don't know who they are? No one does that. None of you asking me questions would ever do that. None of the people watching this would ever do that. You don't let people into your house without knowing who they are.
Are you saying the military
what their intentions are,
the military
and what So I think they're going to be supporting Border Patrol because we don't want to put the military in a position where they can't act. And Chris can probably talk to better on how they literally support Border Patrol on the border. But again, the best thing that they can do is start building infrastructure and be mutually supportive of each other. You're going to have active duty units, you're going to have reserve units, and like I said, these engineering units, having them build the infrastructure is the best use that we can use for them, and then have them start building detention facilities so we don't release one person that we've caught who's asked for asylum. We don't release one into the interior of the United States. That takes money too. And what this Congress needs to do is pass money for this, or the president needs to declare this a national emergency and have these detention centers built using DOD money if that's what he has to do.
Congressman, in 2014, you said that the Border Patrol caught 10 ISIS members, but that was proven false. Is this continued fear-mongering by your campaign?
No, and this is not a campaign deal.
You should tell that to the people to your left. You said like 3 times already, it's not a campaign.
Anyway, so, hey, thank you everybody. This is important again for one major reason. The president has already directed troops. That is a done deal. That is going to happen. So if that's going to happen, what the president needs to direct them to do is start building the foundational high-speed road that the border wall is going to sit on. That is something that they can do right now. They can do it immediately. That'll automatically make it easier to intercept illegal aliens coming across the border while they mutually support the Border Patrol as they get down to the border and await this army of migrants coming from South and Central America.
Congressman, you've had 10 years to do this. Why now?
We've been working it. President Obama was an open border kind of guy.
Congressman, you all have spoken about how this is about national security, and a few of you have even mentioned preventing terrorism. I'm curious, though, considering the majority of domestic terrorism in the U.S. is conducted by far right-wing extremists, what would you do to address that?
That's baloney. That's a dumb question.
So for instance.
Okay, so that's it, folks. Thank you very much for being here. What we want to do is keep America secure, and one way we can do that is by building the infrastructure with the U.S. military that the president has already directed to the border. Thank you.